Welcome to the Milton Show, presented by MokeSound Music. This is a space where sound meets structure and innovation meets tradition. Today we explore the evolving world of music, technology, and creative ownership. From AI-generated composition to modern publishing strategy, we examine what's changing and what still matters. Let's begin. Let me ask you something. What if I told you that people once believed recorded music would destroy live musicians forever? That radio was called theft. That sampling was called stealing. That drum machines were called fake. That auto-tune was called fraud. And now, AI music is being called the end of creativity itself. But here's the real question. Is this actually new, or are we watching the same cycle repeat itself again, just faster? Welcome to the Milton Brown Show, presented by MokeSound Radio, documenting the evolution of music and intelligence. And today, we're going to step back before we move forward, because if you don't understand the pattern, you can't understand the moment. Here's something history teaches us very clearly. Every time technology enters music, someone says it's over. When the phonograph was introduced in the late 1800s, musicians protested. Live performers believed recordings would eliminate their jobs. John Philip Sousa, one of the most respected composers of his time, warned that recorded music would destroy musical culture. He believed people would stop singing at home. He believed talent would weaken. He believed mechanical playback would replace human skill. Sound familiar? Fast forward to the 1920s. Radio explodes, and musicians panic again, because now music could be broadcast without paying live performers in every city. Many argued radio was robbing artists of work. Some called it legalized piracy, but here's what happened instead. Radio didn't kill music, it multiplied exposure, it created stars, it built entire industries. Then came electric instruments, then synthesizers, then drum machines, then sampling, and every single time, the reaction followed the same script. This isn't real music. This is cheating. This will destroy artistry. This takes jobs. This removes the human element. And yet, music didn't die. It evolved. And something else happened too. The artists who adapted won. Now we're here. Artificial intelligence, programs generating songs, voices being cloned, tracks created in minutes, and the language feels very familiar. This isn't real. This is theft. This is the end. But is it? Or is it another chapter in a very old story? That's what we're unpacking today. Because before we debate the future, we have to understand the pattern. This portion of the broadcast is dedicated to the creators shaping the future of music. If you're producing with artificial intelligence and you believe your sound deserves real airplay, MokeSound Music Radio is now accepting submissions. We're offering free on-air exposure and featured creator placement for selected tracks, from cinematic compositions to club-ready anthems to soulful records and experimental sound. If it moves people, and we want to hear it. Submit your track today. Visit MokeSoundMusic.com. That's MokeSoundMusic.com, MokeSound Music Radio, where AI meets the airwaves. Now let's fast forward to the late 1980s and early 1990s. Hip-hop is exploding. Producers are using samplers, machines that can take pieces of existing recordings and flip them into something new. At first, it felt like magic, chopping vinyl, looping drums, rebuilding sound. But very quickly, the backlash came. People said, this is stealing. This isn't musicianship. You're pressing buttons instead of playing instruments. This is lazy. And then the lawsuit started. There was a major case in 1991, and the judge opened his ruling with the words, "Thou shalt not steal." That line changed everything. Overnight, sampling went from creative rebellion to legal risk. Clearances became expensive. Publishers demanded percentages. Small artists couldn't afford it. Some said hip-hop would collapse. Some said creativity would die under lawsuits. But what actually happened? The industry adjusted, a clearance system formed, producers learned to interpolate instead of directly sample, new sounds were created, and today, sampling is mainstream. It's taught in music production schools, it wins Grammys, it's respected. The very thing that was once called theft is now considered an art form. Now think about that, because the language around AI today sounds very similar. Stolen data, derivative work, not original, cheating. But here's the deeper question. Is AI more like piracy or more like sampling? Is it destruction or transformation? I'm not giving you an answer yet. I want you thinking, because history shows us something important. Technology doesn't ask permission. It shows up, people resist it, then it gets integrated. The real shift isn't whether technology appears, it's who learns to work with it. And that brings us to today: AI music tools, text to song generation, voice cloning, style mimicry. This feels bigger, faster, more disruptive, and maybe it is. But before we panic, we need clarity. In the next segment, we're going to break down what AI music actually is, what it isn't, and why this moment feels different. Stay with me.
Identity theft doesn't start with drama. It starts quietly. A leaked password, a data breach, a single click, and suddenly, your credit, your finances, even your name can be compromised. Most people don't think about protection until it's too late. But smart families plan ahead. With affordable identity theft protection and personal legal plans, you get monitoring, guidance, and real support if something ever goes wrong. No panic, no confusion, no facing it alone. Protect what you've worked hard to build. Visit louisebrown.com. That's louisebrown.com, because your name deserves protection.
All right, let's slow this down, because a lot of fear around AI comes from misunderstanding what it actually is. AI music systems do not wake up with inspiration. They do not feel heartbreak. They do not have intent. What they are, at a high level, are statistical pattern engines. They are trained on vast amounts of musical data, not to memorize songs, but to learn patterns, chord progressions, rhythmic structures, melodic tendencies, production styles. Think of it like this. If a human studies 10,000 songs over 20 years, we call that experience. If a machine analyzes millions of songs in weeks, we call it artificial intelligence. But the mechanism, learning patterns, isn't mystical, it's mathematical. Now here's where the controversy enters. People say, isn't that stealing? And this is where it gets nuanced. When a human producer listens to thousands of records, absorbs the sound, and then creates something influenced by that sound, we call it inspiration. When a machine learns patterns from large data sets and generates something new based on probability distributions, we call it scraping. The emotional reaction is different, but the functional idea, pattern learning, has similarities. Now, here's the difference that makes this moment feel bigger: speed, scale, automation. AI can generate a song in minutes. It can replicate vocal textures. It can simulate genres instantly. That compresses what used to take years. And compression creates fear, because when effort shrinks, value feels threatened. But let me ask you something. When drum machines arrived, did drummers disappear? No, they adapted. When digital recording arrived, did studios vanish? No, they evolved. When streaming arrived, did music stop? No, distribution changed. The pattern keeps repeating. Now here's something important. AI music today is not replacing human emotion. It's generating structured audio based on probability. That means it still depends on prompts. It depends on direction. It depends on taste. It depends on curation. And taste is still human. So when someone says AI is going to replace musicians completely, the better question is, replace which musicians? The ones who refuse to adapt, or the ones who learn how to direct it? Because historically, the tool doesn't win, the operator does. Now, I'm not ignoring real concerns. There are legal questions. There are consent issues. There are voice cloning risks. We will cover all of that. But panic without understanding is noise. And this show is about signal. In our next segment, we separate legitimate risks from emotional overreaction, because both exist. Stay with me. Up to this point, we've been talking about AI and creativity. Now it's time to actually hear it. This next track started as an original record I created some time ago. Recently, I used AI tools to refine and enhance the production. What you're about to hear is human creativity, elevated with intelligent technology. Let's take a listen. All right, now we separate emotion from reality because not all concerns about AI are irrational, some are legitimate, and if we ignore them, we lose credibility. So let's break this cleanly into two categories: real risks and emotional panic. First, real risks. Voice cloning without consent, that's real. If someone can replicate an artist's voice without permission, that affects identity, branding, and income. Training data transparency, also real. If copyrighted works were used in training without clear licensing structures, courts will eventually decide how that's handled. Economic pressure, also real. When production becomes easier and faster, supply increases. And when supply increases, prices can compress. Those are not imaginary issues. They deserve serious discussion. Now let's talk about the panic. AI has no soul. That's philosophical, not legal. AI will end creativity. History says otherwise. Music will become worthless. Music has survived radio, tape, CD, MP3, Napster, streaming, and it's still here. What's really happening is a compression of effort, and when effort shrinks, people equate that with reduced value. But here's something important. Value in music has never been about difficulty alone. It's about impact. There were orchestras who believed recorded music would remove emotional depth. There were instrumentalists who believed drum machines were lifeless. There were engineers who believed digital audio would destroy warmth. Yet every time, humans found ways to inject feeling back into the system. Why? Because emotion doesn't live in the tool. It lives in the intention behind it. Now here's the deeper layer. AI feels different because this is the first time technology appears to create, not just distribute. That feels personal. It feels like territory. But remember, photography didn't eliminate painting. It forced painting to evolve. Sampling didn't eliminate songwriting. It expanded texture. Digital didn't eliminate analog. It created preference markets. And AI won't eliminate music. It will rearrange leverage. That's the real shift, not extinction, redistribution. So instead of asking, is this the end? A better question might be, who benefits from understanding this early? Because historically, early adapters build advantage. Late resistors build resentment. And this show is not about resentment, it's about positioning. Now, in our final segment today, we look forward, where this is likely going, what creators should actually prepare for, and how to think strategically instead of emotionally. Stay with me. We've been talking about voice cloning and legality. What you're about to hear is a fully synthetic vocal performance generated with AI, not sampled from any real artist. Listen carefully to the phrasing, the tone, the emotion. This is where technology is heading. Let's take a listen. Let's bring this home. History gives us something powerful, perspective. Every major shift in music technology triggered fear. Recording was fake, radio was theft, sampling was stealing, drum machines were lifeless, auto-tune was fraud, streaming was the death of ownership, and yet music survived. Not only survived, expanded. The pattern isn't destruction, it's disruption followed by integration. But here's what is different this time. Speed. AI compresses years of learning into minutes. That creates discomfort. Because when effort becomes easier, exclusivity shrinks. And when exclusivity shrinks, identity feels threatened. That's human, that's normal. But here's the truth. Technology does not erase human taste, it amplifies it. AI can generate, but it cannot decide what matters. It cannot decide what moves people. It cannot decide what feels authentic. That's still human territory. So the real divide isn't AI versus musicians. It's creators who adapt versus creators who freeze. Because every time technology shifted, the ones who learned to operate it gained leverage. The ones who resisted it lost ground. Now, that doesn't mean ignoring ethical concerns. Consent matters. Transparency matters. Compensation models matter. Those conversations must happen, and they will. Just like sampling law eventually formed, just like radio royalties formed, just like streaming payouts form, regulation always lags innovation, but it eventually catches up. So here's the framing for this show. We are not here to panic. We are not here to hype. We are here to document the evolution of music and intelligence with clarity, with balance, with perspective, because this moment is bigger than tools. It's about power. It's about access. It's about who learns the system early. In episode 2, we go deeper. We go back to the moment when recorded music was called mechanical fraud. We'll look at the original headlines, the original protests, and how the public reacted. Because once you see that reaction, you may look at today's AI debates very differently. This is the Milton Brown Show, presented by MokeSound Radio, documenting the evolution of music and intelligence. I'll see you next time.